our unemployment account, which is funded solely by employers, went insolvent in October of 2009. And since then, we've been borrowing money from the federal government. We've borrowed, I believe, a total of $1 billion approximately. As the commissioner indicated, there's even a request for more money to be able to have in the account so we could pay claims out for those who were unemployed. The federal government loaned us that money for a couple of years without interest, excuse me, and started charging interest about a year, or no, a little more than that. They gave us, I think, a year without interest and then started to charge us interest. Those interest payments are paid by every employer of the state of Connecticut. They're paid once a year by way of a special assessment. The bill goes out in July and they pay it in August. Here, to this point, I believe, employers have paid about $71 million towards that interest payment by way of this special assessment. And it is our understanding that a minimum of $60 million is left, at least another 3 years, where every employer in the state of Connecticut will be getting that special assessment in July, due and payable in August.
You know, some would say that the interest that is being assessed to our employers is so low that it's a good loan, so why pay it off? What is your response to that?
Well, I guess I would go ask the people who are paying it off. It's an interest payment, or a payment, if you will, that they never had anticipated. They didn't ask for. One could argue they didn't get the benefit of the principal when borrowed. And it's yet another. The gentleman whose testimony I read a portion of gives a litany of things that have happened to the small business person. And keep in mind, folks, as we all know, 73% of our businesses in the state of Connecticut have 9 or less employees. We are a state of small businesses. And this unemployment compensation assessment hits small businesses especially hard, because large businesses are capped with regard to their unemployment compensation liability. So it disproportionately and negatively affects small businesses. So if you were to ask that business owner, Representative Smith, hey, it's a great loan, you know, we're not talking about a personal credit card that an individual benefit from by borrowing that money and buying a car or a house or whatever. We're talking about something that was never anticipated by an individual employer, probably never would have wanted to see happen, because it was certainly an indication of a poor economy. So it's not that kind of loan, and I think to pay it off on behalf of those employers would be most welcome. With the news that we learned this year that we have some excess revenue in our coffers that has been unallocated, some call it surplus, I do not, but nonetheless certainly unallocated, unappropriated revenue to the tune of several hundreds of millions of dollars. Our caucus has proposed that we take $60 million of that and charge our state comptroller and our state treasurer with actually paying off the interest on the loans that we have borrowed from the federal government to make our unemployment claims. What would this do? It would relieve every employer in the state of Connecticut of that bill, that interest bill, that special assessment bill they get in July and pay in August. It would relieve them of that burden. Received from one employer. He happens to be a man by the name of Brandon DeFore. He and his partner, along with his family, own 3 LLCs in Connecticut. They're a bus company. Combined, they employ over 1,000 people in the state, and in 2014 alone, the unemployment assessments have cost those 3 companies $70,000. And as he says, that's money that comes right off our bottom line, thereby restricting us from investing additional growth or with additional staff. You know, we have, as a state, have gone down this path of first 5, and we've sort of expanded that to first 10 and first 15. And in doing that, we've given individual companies hundreds of millions of dollars of grants or loans or tax credits for the hope and promise that they would be creating jobs. Unfortunately, however, in doing so, you pick a winner and you pick a loser. Obviously, the company who gets the money would be deemed a winner, and those who don't, otherwise. In this particular case, we could make $60 million. We could make all employers the beneficiary of that money. and truly immediately create, in my opinion, hundreds and thousands of jobs in this much needed economy. Think of what it would say to business folk out there, job creators out there, if the state of Connecticut relieved them of their burden of paying that special assessment, that interest on the unemployment compensation. It's a very small fraction of the additional revenues that we anticipate this year that have not yet been allocated. I would argue with you, it is a debt payment. It's a debt payment that we have passed off to employers, and frankly, in my opinion, to the detriment of our state's economy and our job creation. By taking that small amount of money and paying off that debt so that we relieve employers of that special assessment burden, we will go a long way in stimulating our economy, but most importantly, creating an atmosphere where jobs could grow and develop here in Connecticut.